everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We certainly appreciate your patience as we work through some technical difficulties. I'm sure you guys understand technical difficulties and how things just don't work when you need them to work. So thank you for your patience and thank you for being here with us today. I am Valerie, and I am the Black Myeloma Health Community Manager here with HealthTree. It's so good to see all of you here. And it definitely means a lot to me to have you here and helping us to continue with HealthTree's growing program. So drop it in the chat where you're joining us from today. I always like to know where everybody is coming in from. So if you take a moment and just drop that in the chat. I do want to remind you at the end of today's webinar, we're going to have a short survey where you can share your thoughts on today's session and suggest topics that you'd love to see in the future. We're always looking to cover what matters to you most. So we'd love to hear your feedback, and we definitely appreciate your feedback as well. So before we get started, I just want to take a moment to invite all of you to join one of our HealthTree Connect groups. So whether you're a patient, a family member, we definitely understand how important it is to find the right place to connect with others going through a similar journey. That's why we created the HealthTree Connect. And what it is a private social platform just for you, people with blood cancers, their caregivers. It's a safe space where you can ask questions, you can share your story, and you can learn from others who really just get it. They truly understand, they're going through some of the same things, you're experiencing some of the same things there. So to join a Myeloma Connect group, you can simply scan that QR code that you see on your screen. And just a heads up, this meeting is being recorded. After the event, we're going to send you a link to watch the recording and any resources that we might mention. It's going to come straight to your inbox. So you'll also be able to find the recording later on our website. Now, as we go along, feel free to drop any general questions or comments in the chat. We're going to keep an eye out for them. But our presenter is going to be answering all of the audience questions during the Q&A at the end there. Now, if you need any help with the Zoom features, just drop it in the chat and we'll be happy to assist you. Got Danielle in the back. She's helping me out today with some of the technical stuff. Thanks, Danielle. And Marisol too, so thank you. Now, if you need to access the chat, click that chat icon. If you're on a mobile device or a tablet, just click those three dots and then select chat to join the conversation. Now, as always, I got to take a moment to thank our sponsors without whom this event would not be possible. So we got GSK, Pfizer, Kite, Johnson & Johnson, and Amgen that's supporting the program today. Thank you. Now, without further ado, I'm really excited to start today's session. It's entitled Wellness in Action, Diet, Movement, and a Positive Mindset with Glossie Echols. Now, Glossie prefers to be called Coach G, is a myeloma thriver. He's a certified coach, a licensed insurance agent, a trainer, and somebody whose life just embodies resilience, faith, and hope. Glossie was diagnosed with myeloma back in 2020 and has since been in a really good remission since 2021. He's dedicated his journey to inspiring others through his guiding motto, control your controllables. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. Glossie was born and raised on a farm in Mississippi. He developed an enduring connection for the land, the value of healthy eating, and the healing power of nature. So today he draws on those roots to help others embrace diet, movement, and mindset and faith as practical tools for navigating life's challenges and living with purpose. Glossie is currently building Echols International Coaching. It's a holistic coaching practice with a planned launch in 2026. His vision is to empower cancer survivors, thrivers, and at-risk individuals to claim their health, strengthen their faith, and cultivate resilience. So whether he's speaking before community groups, training professionals, or sharing his personal testimony, Coach G's mission is simple: to add value to the lives of others by helping them focus on what they can control. So, Coach G, the floor is yours.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Valerie. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate Valerie for having told me about this type of organization and just a chance to add values to people. Well, control the controllables. Let me say that today has been a perfect example of that because she mentioned technical difficulties. Everything was in place, like I thought my life was in place before myeloma hit. And then we ran into a couple of little snafus as we got started today, but it's no problem. We're controlling the things that we can control. So, with that said, I'm going to ask them as I go through the presentation to advance the slide, and they will do that for me. But my story started out in March 2020. In the same week, COVID hit. My job shut down, and I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. I literally felt as if I was in a fight with Mike Tyson. I was just being hit left and right. And as many of you know, myeloma or multiple myeloma has about 96,000 Americans that are actually living in remission with this. So I actually joined that group of people who are living with multiple myeloma. You can advance to the next slide for me. Well, I can tell you this, it really hit me hard because I was only 52 when I was diagnosed, and the average age is 69. Unlike many patients, my journey did not begin with persistent bone pain or overwhelming fatigue, anemia, things of that sort. Mine started out having extreme headaches. And I talked to my youngest sister, who's a physician, and she said, go get a physical. I did. And they said, you have high blood pressure. I argued with the doctor about that. I said, I'm in great shape. I exercise. What are you talking about? He said, you need to get on high blood pressure medication. I spoke with my sister again. She said, I want you to have more tests run. Thankfully, she was in my life. Had more tests run. They said, we don't like the numbers. They sent me to a nephrologist. More tests run. They didn't like what they would see. I got an ultrasound. Nothing was found. The nephrologist said, let's do a biopsy. A biopsy was done. It came back. I was diagnosed with stage 4 CKD, chronic kidney disease. Again, I'm feeling like I'm in a fight with Mike Tyson because I've always exercised, been in shape, eating right. I said, what in the heck is going on? So more tests were run. And they decided at the point, hey, multiple myeloma is the diagnosis. The emotional impact was pretty profound. And I went from shock and fear and anger to deciding I'm going to control the things that I can control. And that's where the topic came from, control the controllables. I said, okay, I can't control my diagnosis, but what I can control is my diet and nutrition. I can control my exercise and my movement. I can control my words, my thoughts, my attitude. I can have a positive attitude. And that is where I laid the foundation for where I am now, controlling my controllables. I said, okay, I can control what I eat. With my nutrition, I began to do a lot of research, and I realized that diet and nutrition, which I already knew were very important just to have a healthy life, were really important if you're combating a diagnosis such as I had. I realized and I learned that your gut microbiome is so important. So I began to study and read more and more about that. You all can advance to the next slide for me, please. My treatment path was this: initial chemotherapy. When I was diagnosed with CKD, the oncologist said that the protein accumulation in your kidneys is happening so incredibly fast. They're so damaged that if you don't get on chemotherapy, you are going to be on dialysis within the next 3 weeks. I disagreed. I was not happy. I spoke with my sister, who's a physician, spoke with my oldest niece, who's a physician here in Atlanta at Emory. I spoke with a couple other friends who are physicians, and they helped me to realize sometimes you have to go with the medical suggestion before you start looking at some of the alternative paths. So I went through 16 weeks of chemotherapy treatment, folks, just to stop the protein buildup in my kidneys and to keep me from going on dialysis. I went through 16 weeks and I lost a lot of weight during that time. I lost about 55 pounds during that time. But I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep eating healthy. I'm going to control my gut microbiome. I realized the importance of eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds because based upon the study that I'd done and the research that I was doing from the National Institutes of Health, from an organization called Crispy Cancer, one of the things I learned is that I had to get the sugar out of my diet. I had to keep nutrient dense foods in my diet. So I went through the 16 weeks of treatment. I decided I'm going to exercise single day. Um, I call coming in and I'm ending that right now. I want to make sure that my audio is not messed up and work to control the controllables. But exercising every when going through treatment, the sun actually burned my skin. So I could not walk during the day, but I decided, even though I had pounding headaches every day, I'm going to walk every evening and do light movement every single day. And this was during chemo treatment. I would walk anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 miles every day, but late at night. Again, this was during COVID. So I was out there at night walking at 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. It was just the moon, the stars. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, kind of a wooded area. So the deer, foxes, raccoons, God and I. And I'm deciding I'm going to speak. I'm going to control my words, my attitudes by what I speak. So I exercise every day. And I realized that by exercising, if I could get to a half a mile or a mile, the endorphins started to improve my attitude and feeling. And I could walk a little bit more and a little bit more. So I went through chemotherapy. The next thing is I actually had a stem cell transplant 6 months later, and there was high dose chemotherapy the first day, and the next day I had my stem cell transplant. Thankfully, my support team, my family, my siblings, I have 3 sisters, were very close. My youngest sister came and stayed with me during this time, fed me ice when I was going through the high dose chemotherapy, and then I had the stem cell transplant. And now I'm actually on a maintenance plan and have been in remission since my transplant. So the just to recap, the diagnosis was in March. I had my stem cell transplant in September of 2020. And I went into remission the following year and have been in remission since that time. But the thing that's great about it is recent advancements have actually increased the 5 year survival rate up to 47%. And I'm at that 5 year mark now. So, you guys, I am so thankful for that. We can go on and advance to the next slide. These are some pictures that I did not show initially. I was very embarrassed, but I wanted to just share my story so you can see what happened. On the right, that is me going through the process of extracting my stem cells. And you see all the tubes that are going into me. And that was a challenging process, going through a week of that. And after my stem cell transplant, where I lost 55 pounds, that's me on the left. And I always say I look like a black raccoon with my deep sunken eyes that has been a drug addicted raccoon. But I took these pictures for my sake. I had no idea that I would share this in a public forum, but I wanted you all to know this is a story of hope because these are some of the stages that I went through. So, on the right, again, going through my stem cell removal and in the process of putting them back in my body. The left is after my transplant, when I am still making sure I'm doing some type of movement and exercise in every single day. We can go and advance to the next page. My decision to control my diet and nutrition on the next slide. I realized I had to drink water every single day. So much water. Water is important for flushing toxins out of the body. And it's normally suggested that you drink about half your body weight in ounces. 10 plus glasses minimum. That's what I drank. I really focused on a balanced diet because I knew that I was immunocompromised. And studies have shown that your immune health starts in your gut microbiome. So I really focused on colorful fruits and vegetables, whole grains, eliminating processed foods, and definitely added sugars because studies have shown I would urge you all to look also at what sugar does if you've had a cancer diagnosis. And I really focus on reading daily, listening to information that could help me with my knowledge of what it would take to have the proper diet and nutrition, because I said that's a controllable that I can't control. We can go on to the next slide, please. And these are just a couple pictures that I took, you guys. I had no idea, again, that I would share this story when I went through this, but on the left-hand side, that's the way my basket looked when I would go shopping. You see the leafy greens, the fruits, the vegetables. I had a full basket because I said, I can control what I eat. I can control my nutrition. The right side is just in the meal preps that I would do. I would prepare my foods because I realized that I had to get in my foods that would improve my gut health, that would improve my immune system. So this is just kind of how meal prep looked for me. Again, part of sharing my story. Had no idea I would end up sharing this in a public forum, but I'm glad I took these pictures now. So you can see this is something that I actually did myself. On to the next slide. Again, just microbiome friendly meals. I realized I needed to get in my cruciferous vegetables like my broccoli and my cauliflower and my kale, and had to make it colorful. So these are actual dishes that I made during this time. And you see, I have peace above my plate because I said, as I control my attitude, I'm going to live in a state of peace. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to expect to be healed through this process. So these are some of just the microbiome friendly meals that I did made during that time. On to the next slide. Again, more meals that I made. I juice, I blended fruits, vegetables. You see, there's a lot of color here. This is the way that I was eating, and I really feel and believe and know that because I was very intentional about what I ate and my nutrition, that this was a very, very strong factor. So I tell people constantly, we know we hear eat healthy, but if you've had a cancer diagnosis, so important to make sure that you have a colorful plate, bowl, blender, because the more colors, the more variety you have in your fruits and vegetables, and that helps to build your gut microbiome. I'm going to give you all a couple links too, so that you all can read some of the information that I had as I went through this, and this is where I got my information from. On to the next slide. I'll keep rolling. Just more meals, more things that I prepared. Again, colorful, different things. I went vegan for about 9 months. Now I will occasionally eat some wild caught fish, wild caught salmon, or organic chicken or turkey occasionally. But these are just some of the gut microbiome friendly meals because, again, my goal was to have it as colorful as possible. On to the next slide, please. Again, my decision to control daily exercise. After my diagnosis, I said, I've got to keep exercising. As I said, this is a picture right before my diagnosis when I was having the headaches, but I was working out with my nephew because I always wanted to be a good example for family of exercising. But I really know that as I went through this process, exercise helped. After my diagnosis and after my stem cell transplant, when I was at the Northside Cancer Center, and after my transplant, I went back every day for 35 days in a row. I would walk around the transplant center pushing my IV rack because I got many, many blood transfusions during this process. Probably, probably about 35 or 40 blood transfusions. but I would walk around the actual, and I apologize for that ring in the background, you guys. By the way, this is the person that I've done like this, and that is one thing that I should have done was made sure that my phone was turned on mute. But I would walk around the transplant center pushing an IV rack, and I would walk 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 miles a day because I would go to the transplant center, have many transfusions, many checks, and come back. But my doctors would say quite often, as they would see me walking around the transplant center, pushing my IV rack, they would ask me, "Hey, how are you doing?" Well, we think you're doing better than us because we see you walking and moving. And would I have headaches sometimes? Yes. But I was determined I could control my daily exercise. So for me, that's really, really one of the three pillars, or the second pillar that has been a foundation and things going so well for me. On to the next slide, please. My decision to control my attitude, my words, and my thoughts. I knew that I had to control what went into my eye gate and my ear gate. I only allowed positive people around me. I only listened to positive things. On the right, that's a picture of my siblings and my parents. They were so, so supportive of me during this time. My dad unfortunately passed September of last year, but he made it to 97. And by the way, my dad was diagnosed with smoldering myeloma and lived with it and still lived to be 97. So I'm optimistic about the future because he did not have some of the knowledge that I have regarding diet and nutrition, even though he was a very, very healthy man. But my family unit was a part of me controlling my attitudes, my words, and thoughts because they were positive, they were supportive. And what I would encourage all of you all to do is to build a network of people who support what you do. Monthly myeloma support groups our support groups like HealthTree are so important. The International Myeloma Foundation, so important. But words, thoughts, attitude, so important during this process. On to the next slide for me, please. So now living a new normal. And my father always taught his children that a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. And when my younger sister went through medical school, when my middle sister was working her PhD, and quite often they were having challenges, they said they always remembered that daddy said, a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. As I went through multiple myeloma diagnosis and the stem cell transplant and all of that, I said, I may not be able to do everything I once did, but I discovered a real appreciation for every day. And I said, every single day, a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. And again, pictures taken. My sister took this picture, my oldest sister taking me to the airport. And this is me coming from the farm back to Atlanta. I didn't even know she had taken the picture, but this is me now. I've gained my weight back. I am thriving. Life is moving forward. And I've got a smile on my face because I know that the future is bright. And I just want to add value to people because this is my new normal, but my normal is living in remission, but still controlling my controllables with my diet and nutrition, my exercise and my movement, and controlling my attitude through positive words, thoughts, and deeds. So as I adapt to life with multiple myeloma, I realize sometimes I get tired. So I set realistic goals. I find a purpose in life by doing things just like this. This is the first time in a public forum online. I fortunately was given an opportunity to speak to some individuals who are part of a research program at Grady Hospital here in Atlanta last month. So I find purpose through mentoring people. My oncologist has actually asked me to mentor a couple of our patients because she said, Glossie, you have such a great attitude. You're always positive. You do the right things. You do what is important to maintain your health. So that is a part of my finding purpose. I try and prioritize activities that bring me meaning and joy, and this is so crucial, stay stress free as possible because many studies have shown that stress can exacerbate a diagnosis. And my goal is to stay in a remission and a cured state for the rest of my life. On to the next slide, please. So, my message to fellow survivors: find a community of others who understand you're not alone in this journey. Find others who are positive, who have your back. Educate yourself about your disease. So important. Understanding brings empowerment, and the more you know, the better you understand it. And you can have knowledgeable conversations about your health providers. Self compassion: be gentle with yourself. Understand that you're an individual, you're human. You're going to have some challenging days, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. Be gentle with yourself. Have hope. Treatment advances continue to improve the diagnosis of multiple myeloma every year. So stay hopeful, stay optimistic, and I will say advocacy. Speak up for your needs and preferences. You are the center of your care team. Don't be afraid to ask your healthcare team questions. Write them down. Have family members write them down so that you feel much more grounded and much more vested as being the lead person and the lead advocate in your healthcare. As we go in advance to the next slide, I would say always remember: control your controllables, your diet and your nutrition, your exercise and movement, your words, your thoughts and attitudes. And together we can live well with our diagnosis. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. And on to the next slide, you will have access to some resources that help me tremendously regarding diet and nutrition. The plant-fed gut with Dr. Will Bosowitz has been so helpful for me in giving me stats and numbers and the importance of understanding what you can do to make sure your gut microbiome stays healthy. Dr. Bobby Price is a pharmacist who realized the importance of nutrition. He's another link. Lastly, Chris beat cancer. This guy had colon cancer and he beat it. He has a program, and I really locked into that program when I first had my diagnosis, and I got a lot of good information from that. Exercise and fitness. Zarina Del Mar on YouTube. Again, you'll have access to this, but she has really good information on gentle movements and things you can do that will help with your exercise and movement. And lastly, healing scriptures. These are things that I spoke every day as I walked, as I interacted with other people, and as I determined I'm going to beat this. So this is another link for you. And lastly, you have a link for a map of locally grown produce in Georgia. But by clicking on that link, you can also find about locally grown produce in whatever state you are listening from. So again, thank you for the opportunity. That's my story. And remember, control your controllables. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Glossie, for that wonderful presentation. Um, Control your controllables. There's a lot that we can do. Even though we are dealing with multiple myeloma, there's a lot that we can do to make it easier, bearable. So thank you for sharing. So we're going to move into our Q&A uh, time for the program. So I see we had a question in the chat already, but if you do have a question, just feel free to unmute yourself. You can raise your hand um, utilizing that raise your hand feature. If you just can't get to that, just throw your hand up on the screen, and I'll try to make sure that we get all the questions addressed here. But yeah, some very great information, very encouraging um, information that we've received here today. So yes, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute so we can address that. I do want to, we did get a question in the chat box And the individual asks, did you start your healthy eating after your stem cell transplant or while doing your induction treatment?
I actually ate very healthy prior to my transplant and prior to my diagnosis. But once I began actually studying the information from crispy cancer, at that point, I went very, very clean as far as I went vegan. I cut out all meat. I went vegan. I made sure no white sugar whatsoever. But I took my healthy eating to an entirely different level after my diagnosis.
Yeah. I think one question that we hear a lot, Glossie, is we know that we should be eating healthier. We know, um, we talk about vegetarian diets, and you just mentioned that you went vegan there. Um, was that difficult for you? Because, within our culture, it's a lot of unhealthy foods. That's just what we were raised on. That's just what we know. We have our comfort foods that we always go to. How difficult was that for you? First in going vegan, because, we think about going vegan, it's like a total stop. What do you mean? Just I got to give up meat altogether. I don't think I can do that. Or what did that look like for you?
Well, to be very frank, I wanted to live. I wanted to live. And as I began reading, I said, I can't control my diagnosis. I can't control everything that the doctors are doing, but I can control my diet and nutrition. And based upon what I'm reading, if I change this, I can live. And I made a decision. I want to live. So whatever it takes. Did I miss things sometimes? I loved eating salmon. Did I miss it? Yes. But I would constantly ask myself, how bad do you want to live? Do you want to make it? Can you control this? I said, I'm going to control this. So was it a little challenging? A little. But again, what I kept in front of me was I want to live. I'm going to control what I can control. I couldn't control the CKD. Oh, by the way, I did not mention that I had a really, really increased recovery with the CKD. I'm doing a lot better. My nephrologist, I went up 2 stages with my CKD, and my nephrologist was shocked. He said, "You're a walking miracle. I've never seen this happen." So when I began to hear information like that, that just encouraged me to keep doing the right thing.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So you talked a lot about gut health, and that's something that we're hearing more and more about these days. Um, Talk a little bit more about what that looks like, because we know, if you don't know, actually part of our immune system, about 70, 80% of our immune system is within the gut. So we have a lot of patients that are on therapies that kind of affect the gut. A lot of people have issues with the Revlimid and how that has an effect on the gut. What are some things, or how can we kind of address that? And I know you're not a doctor, but how can we address that when we look at it as we are trying to do the right thing with eating right, but this medication is still taking a toll on our immune system through the gut there. What can you say about that?
Well, regarding gut health, one of the things I learned from Dr. Boel Bolsowitz, and you have him as one of the links or resources of information, is that one of the things that we can do is to make sure there's as much variety in our diet as possible, i.e., make it as colorful as possible. We know that the gut is responsible for breaking down food and absorbing nutrients, eliminating waste and things of that sort. But one of the things I learned from him is that a large part of our immune system is actually in our gut. And when we have a diverse diet, it helps to protect against infections and it helps to actually promote a strong immune response.
Mhm.
After my diagnosis and after my stem cell transplant, I did in 2021, 2022, I got COVID twice, but it impacted me very little, very little. And I think it is because I spent so much time on gut health. So having a strong gut, having a strong immune system, strong gut health, I found has been very, very important. And what can we do? Make each meal as colorful as possible with your fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans. Because the more colorful it is, there are more phytonutrients, and this helps our immune system stay even stronger.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Irby Shaw has done a lot of work, when it comes to the gut health and talking about those things. So, and we've got some, I'm sure, webinars that she spoke on. I know she's actually done a study with us in regards to the gut health and the gut microbiome and things of that nature. So I encourage you to check that out, and we'll put some of that information in the follow-up that we'll send. Thank you for that. Treasure Valley, go ahead. You have your hand raised there.
Hey, Valerie, it's Sherry.
Hey, Sherry, how are you?
Hey, good, good. So I just want to thank you for the presentation. And as you were talking about your story in the beginning, I'm like, he's read my story because it was just about verbatim. I was 49, found out that I had high blood pressure, which I'd never had, found out I had kidney failure, which was the first punch to the gut. And then the second one was that you have myeloma, which we'd never heard of. Just, all those things. 6 months later, stem cell transplant. It was just like your timeline and my timeline, only mine was in 2011. But man, it was just like hearing my story all over again, except I had to do dialysis. And but my doctor said the same thing. You'll be on dialysis the rest of your life. And I said, well, we'll just see about that. And within 2 years, I was able to stop dialysis, thank goodness. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you because it was just really, interesting to hear your story because it so reflected my story. And I'm glad that you're doing very well.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. So I just want to acknowledge we have some things in the chat box. So awesome presentations. Does Coach have any holistic information to share? I think we have some of the references that you had in your PowerPoint.
Yes, and you're
Okay.
you're going to have that on your site, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Or
we're going to share that to everyone that's here, and it will be on the website later as well.
Mhm.
So not all doctors agree with it. However, this individual is a big component of natural healing. Yes, I agree. Thank you for your presentation and love your positivity and outlook. And this one individual says, I started a part plant-based diet, no meat, but I ate fish and eggs for about 6 months. And I thought my weight loss was from the diet, but it was due to the multiple myeloma. So it sounds like you had started a nice change there, and then you come to find out that that was myeloma. I'm just curious, is this individual, have you went back to that? I don't know if you're still here. Do you want to come off of mute? Maybe you can address that, or just drop it in the chat. How has that been? Then did you go back to what you were doing before?
You're asking me, did I? Or the
No,
individual?
I just wanted to respond to that participant that put it in the chat box there. It looks like they had started a part plant-based diet before they got the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. I was just curious, did you go back to that, and how has that been? So another question that we have, what are your thoughts on drinking alcohol? Did you cut it out completely?
One of the things I did cut it out completely. Now I will occasionally drink a little red wine. There, I've studied a lot about the blue zones, and in the blue zones are the 5 areas of the world that have the most centenarians. And in 2 or 3 of those blue zones, the one wine they will drink is red wine called Cannonau, from a Cannonau grape. So occasionally I will drink some of that. I don't do it often because if you Google, is alcohol a carcinogen, you're going to be shocked at what Google shows you. Alcohol is a group 1 carcinogen up there with asbestos and cigarette smoke. So once I understood that, that made a big difference in my decision to continue to stay away from that.
I always say revert back to your doctor. I have a glass of wine every now and then because I like it. But I think it becomes, what is your personal preference and, what effect that it would have on you with the meds that you may be taking there. So very good question. Thanks for asking that. And then I'm just going to go back to that question we were talking about. The individual says, not really. I eat a lot of veggies and some meat, but not a lot. Thank you for responding to that there. Did you include fermented foods to help your microbiome?
Most definitely. Sauerkraut and kimchi are two of the things I definitely ate because, again, from Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, you'll see it on his link. He talks about that quite extensively. And also, there's another doctor, Dr. Joel Furman, who talks about your G bombs, which are your greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And he also talks about fermented food as a part of helping to help with your gut microbiome. So to answer your question, yes, kimchi, organic kimchi, and organic sauerkraut. But I watched the amounts because having had compromised kidneys, I want to make sure that I'm not overdoing it with salt.
Mhm. And let's talk about exercise. We often, a lot of times, people with multiple myeloma, they want to exercise, but there's the fear of, injury, or there has been some kind of injury, or there's bone damage in some ways there. And I know you said you exercised before. Did you notice that there was a big difference in how much you could exercise after your diagnosis, and how did you kind of gently work yourself back into exercise or getting an exercise program?
I did notice there was a difference after my diagnosis, and the link that I mentioned, Crispy Cancer, he talks about this quite extensively. So what I did, I walked instead of running because I did not want to cause too much pressure to my joints. And I did yoga, I did gentle movement, and some light weight training. Now, 5 years later, I exercise pretty hard. But during that time, because of the headaches and because of what I read about not stressing the body out too much with exercise, I did more gentle exercising and walking, but I did it consistently every day.
Yeah, I think consistency is the key. I can remember when I was going through a stem cell transplant and I wanted to exercise. I wanted to get up and I wanted to walk, but I didn't have the energy to do it. I just you know, couldn't walk like I was accustomed to. But I made sure that I did what I could. And I think it's just that consistency. If you can only do a few steps, do what you can. If you can do it 2 or 3 times a day, do what you can when you can. I think that makes a tremendous amount of difference, as you're going through, and even when you're dealing with fatigue. It seems counterintuitive, but I'm tired. I don't have the energy to do it, but that's what it takes. So thank you for sharing that consistency. What do you take any supplements, vitamins, anything like that, Coach G?
Yes, I do. I have a really good pharmacist, and she is open to supplementation. So I would send her a list of the supplements that I wanted to take to make sure there were no contraindications with the medication that I was taking at that time. So I do take a basic multivitamin now. I take zinc. At one time, I took vitamin D, but my vitamin D levels are really good, so I'm not taking vitamin D now. But I do take a few organic supplements now. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And are you doing any maintenance? I know you said been in remission since 2021. Are you on a maintenance therapy?
Yes, I take a once a month shot Darzalex Fast Pro 1800 milligrams once a month. Yes,
Okay,
immunotherapy.
good, good. How long did it take to regain the weight that you lost and to kind of regain your strength? So how long to get back to or I think as you referred to it, is your new normal. You're kind of adjusting to that.
Gaining the weight back took about 3 years.
Mhm.
Took about 3 years. I, as far as strength is concerned, I've had no issues with bones at all. I no longer try and I've changed. I'm 58 now. So I changed the way I exercise. I'm no longer working to bench press 300 plus pounds. And I go, I would much rather now do exercise where I do a higher rep with medium sides, with medium weight versus heavy weight. But it took about three and a half years to gain my weight back. And as far as strength is concerned, uh, it's been about a 3.5 year period. I feel myself. I was actually last week thinking as I'm doing push-ups, I'm like, wow, I'm doing push-ups like I was doing back in the day before my diagnosis, and this is 5 years later. Last year, I was not doing as many push-ups as I am doing now, so it's been a process getting that full strength back, even though I've continued to exercise the entire time.
I think that goes back to the consistency that you were just speaking about. It's just when you stay consistent and like when you talk about building muscle, just one at a time. You just have to be repetitive with it and be consistent with it. So thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So question, I know everyone's different. How long was it before you reached remission? Because I know you said you were diagnosed in 2020 and you went into remission in 2021. So what was kind of like the time frame there?
Well, actually, right after my stem cell transplant, I was diagnosed as being in remission. I started working. I started working about 10 months after my stem cell transplant. I was still in remission. The job was very stressful. I came out of remission for like a month, 2 months because of the stress from the job, and I left that position. And by the end of 2021, I was back into remission again. So I was back in remission immediately, came out for a short period of time, and then back into remission within 90 days.
Mhm. Mhm. And Glossie, we know that everybody's experience with multiple myeloma is different. Um, and I talk to a lot of people that's dealing with multiple myeloma. And I must say the people that tell me, I changed my diet, I changed my exercise routine, and that made an extreme difference. Um, so I really believe that there's something to that, and it's not necessarily, oh, I'm becoming a vegan or I'm going to become a vegetarian. I think it's in some of the things that you shared, eating the rainbow and making sure that you have balanced meals. So those are some of that's one of the key takeaway that I take away from, the session with you today is you can't do everything all at once, but you can do some things that's going to help you. And I want to touch bases on your positive mind and words have power. And I think that has been one of the things that you've, talked about in the session today is just making sure that you have, uh, you mentioned the scripture, that may not be for everyone. I say, affirmations, whatever it is that gets you going and keeps you in that positive state. I say focus, on those types of things. Um, it sounds like you've always been a positive person, so this is just carrying over into the myeloma journey that you're on. Would you say that that's the case there? You've always been positive. You've kind of always looked for the good in things.
That is true. I have always been positive. That is very, very true. But again, with the study, one of the things I began to realize on a scientific level is when you speak positive words, the impact it has on a cellular level in the body. And I said, wow, I read about this from a spiritual perspective, but I did not even realize that they've done scientific studies where they've had petri dishes and they put cells in it and they've had negative words being said or recorded very loud volume over those petri dishes and then positive uplifting things, and on a molecular level the structure of those cells changed. And when I realized that, I said, wow, this is just another confirmation for me that I must speak positive over my body and in my environment, because that is another controllable that's going to help with this journey.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I saw that demonstration done with water, with taking the water and just speaking, doing it with some ice and speaking positive words over it versus the negative words. And it was so amazing to see that. So just remember, you all, that words have power, and what you tell yourself is going to have an effect on outcomes. So, Coach G, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to give you the floor. You have any closing remarks, words of inspiration for us this afternoon?
Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform, Valerie. I really appreciate you. I appreciate HealthTree. And I, again, am going to tell people to control your controllables. The future is bright. Stay optimistic. Surround yourself with positive people. Speak positive over your environment. Watch what you allow to come to your eye gate and ear gate. Move, exercise, do something daily, because it will help with this journey. And with your diet and nutrition, you said eat the rainbow. I agree. Remember, we can let, and this is an old saying from, I think, was it Socrates? It may have been, but he said, let your food be your medicine, and let your medicine be your food. That is also my message.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining. Just remember that as you're on your way out today, we would appreciate you taking 2 to 3 minutes to fill out that brief survey about your experience during today's events. And if you haven't had an opportunity, take some time to check out the blackmyelomahealth.org website. And I invite you to join us back here next month for the Black Myeloma Health webinar as we welcome Vanya Hudson. Vanya is going to be talking about the health challenges facing African American myeloma patients. Now, I think this is an essential discussion, as we kind of delve into the complex landscape of the diagnosis, treatment, and support. And she's going to be shedding some light on some significant disparities that impact patient outcomes and the quality of life. So hope you'll join us back here next month, October. I think it's the 23rd. Don't hold me. We'll make sure that we get you the information on that. And then on October the 25th, it's a Saturday morning. Black Health is going to host the Meet, Mingle, and Learn session in Greenville, South Carolina. So if you are in the Greenville, Spartanburg area, come on out and join us Saturday morning. We're going to be at the Phyllis Wheatley Community Center. And it's just a time for us to kind of connect and learn from one another, learn about one another. And we're going to be talking about HealthTree resources and learning about some of the challenges that you're going through and how we can help you through those. So there's going to be some registration information that you'll receive in an email as well. And we got two in-person upcoming events happening this weekend. We have a Connect Cures event this Saturday, September the 27th. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. And we're also having one of the roundtable events this Saturday. It's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're in Atlanta or Austin, it's not too late to register for those in-person events there. We would love to see you at those events there. And another event that we have coming up on Tuesday, September the 30th, the Hispanic community event, Understanding Your Lab. So if you have um, patients or somebody that you know that is Hispanic that would benefit from this webinar, definitely share this information. This webinar is going to be it's all in Spanish, so if you know somebody that applies to, please share the information. The link to sign up to those events and many, many others is, going to be on that slide. You probably can see it on your screen there. It's also going to be in a follow-up event. But I did want to mention, I told you about that Connect to Cures event that's happening Saturday. The Connect to Cures events, those are free in-person events where you can connect with other patients, learn from local doctors, and kind of discover some of the key resources that HealthTree has. So look at those cities on the screen. If there's one coming up near you, definitely get yourself registered and, join in. We'd love to see you there. Reserve your spot. As always, want to take a moment to thank our guests, Glossie, and then to also thank our sponsors without whom this event would not be possible. GSK, Pfizer, Kite, Johnson & Johnson, and Amgen. Thank you. And before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you again for being part of our multiple myeloma community. Your support means so much, and we're grateful to have you here with us. I've included my email on the slide, so don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about HealthTree or any of our programs. I'm always here to help you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you on another webinar soon.